take a seat, grab a drink, and let's start the beat. We're the
And then went to Mizzou, so that's the Missouri
Oh, you did
connection.
go to Mizzou.
Yeah.
I saw that on the resume there, but what'd you study there?
Anthropology and art history.
Cool. And then did I actually see SCAD?
Yeah, that's where my
So
master's
cool.
is from.
Did you get to live in Savannah?
No. So I was doing like a hybrid kind of remote and
Yeah.
in-person thing. I was doing historic preservation. And so I was working in a museum at the time. And
So cool.
it just made sense to kind of stay at my job.
Yeah. So have you visited Savannah before though?
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable. That's why I feel like anytime I've looked at your stuff, I feel like Savannah's like the go-to for all the historic preservation stuff.
Yeah, it's an incredible city.
So have you ever went down there and like learned from anyone else, or kind of like what that process look like?
Yeah, so for historic preservation, it was just a 2-year master's, and the theory courses were largely online, and then my kind of capstone or thesis project, however you want to think of it, I was working with someone that was based out of Savannah, but his background was in kind of early Virginia architecture, which is what I was working on. And so I would go down and meet with him and meet with some of my other like advisory committee, and sometimes we would have kind of like little labs, if you will. But for the most part, I was working on Virginia buildings.
So cool. So how did that kind of process work to get you into the whole house system here in Wheeling? Like, obviously, I feel like a lot of people know you for that. So kind of like how'd that all lead into where that started?
Yeah, so my background, like I was saying, is architectural history, historic preservation, and I was working in the museum sector and really loved the architectural history part of it, but I knew that after a certain point, I was done being in museums. Presidential houses aren't generally at jeopardy of demolition, and I wanted to do the work I was doing, but more in a community context, and I didn't have any geographic allegiance anywhere. I just kind of looked at what was available, and the Wheeling position was available, and I called the executive director at the time and said, hey, I happen to be in the area. Do you have some time for me? And it all worked out.
So cool. All right, go ahead. Introduce yourself to the people. Give them your little 15 to 30 second pitch of who you are.
Okay. My name is Betsy Sweeny, and I am a historic preservation consultant. I came to Wheeling in 2019 to work at Wheeling Heritage and have since found a whole home with old buildings.
All right, let's go back to Mizzou. Are you from Missouri?
No, I'm from Pittsburgh.
From Pittsburgh. How did you end up down there?
So I wanted 2 degrees. I wanted a dual degree situation with art history and anthropology. And a lot of large state schools do not offer both. And so being from Pennsylvania, Pitt and Penn State, neither of them were a great fit for what I wanted to do. So that meant I just got to broaden my search to other similar large state schools. And sure enough, I just kept widening that circle and checked out a bunch of different places and ended up just really loving Mizzou.
So
and
cool.
I had the best time there. I loved it.
I feel like you probably had to have made so many friends when you're down there, and it's just because everyone's university they go to, they're passionate about and like they love and they always want to go back. What was your time like there?
It was like a sitcom. I met all of my best friends on the first week. We all lived in the same dorm building. We stayed friends the whole 4 years. I just spent 2 weeks in Missouri last month visiting with them. Like I could not have had a more idyllic college experience.
What food from down there do you miss now that you probably can't get it from up here?
That's a good question.
Did you have any calf food like when you were a freshman in the dorm room?
That was pretty average. I can't say I missed that. But there was a really good pizza place, Shakespeare's, that was local to Columbia that I definitely miss. And then there's a lot of kids from St. Louis that go to Mizzou, and gooey butter cake is a really good, like sickeningly sweet dessert.
Nice.
It's always really good.
When you first said it, I just assumed it was like a brunch spot.
No, it's this like vanilla cake that has so much butter in it.
Wow.
You can practically feel your arteries closing.
I feel like that'd be perfect for like Sarah's or Ellen Jack's here. Like get it here and then enjoy it. After Mizzou, you said you were kind of in the museum space. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
So while I was doing my undergraduate degree, part of the requirements of anthropology, I went to a field school in archaeology at James Madison's home, Montpelier, and made a lot of connections there. Really loved what they were doing, but was not intending to be an archaeologist. And so after I graduated, they offered me a contract to kind of work in their archaeology lab as a very low-paid, lowly person. And it was during that time that I was kind of really making it clear that I wanted to work in architectural history and historic preservation, and if anything happened to open up. And then sure enough, a position did open up, and so I ended up getting a more stable position in their architecture and preservation department. And I stayed there for about 5 years during that time, got my master's, and did all kinds of really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's so cool. So when the plan was, you picked up the phone, you got to Wheeling, whatever, was the house already bought?
Oh, no.
No, it
Not
wasn't.
at all. No, I truly came to Wheeling to help other people with historic preservation.
So cool.
And further the revitalization goals of Wheeling and all of that. And I loved it. And about almost a year into living here, I was just on a walk and saw the house and said to the person I was with, hey, I wonder if this is available. And next thing you know, I'm talking to the owner and under contract.
So the house was bought for how much?
Oh gosh, I have to think back now. It was listed for 20. It appraised at 16. And so I think I bought it for 18.5.
That is amazing.
Whatever halfway between 16 and 20 is.
Oh, so you didn't have to take any math classes at Mizzou?
No.
Okay. So you buy the house, and then you've put all this unbelievable work into it. Do you know how much it's worth right now?
I do. So a big part of the whole financial structure of how I was able to finance the construction and on included appraisals at like every stage of the game. So upon completion of the like full rehabilitation, it appraised for I think $202,000.
Holy moly! Congratulations. That's such a cool story.
I've only done more work since, so hopefully it's a little more.
So the people that study the same thing you do and kind of take the route you've gone, are there a lot of people in like positions across America right now that are doing the same thing you're doing, or do you feel like you're in a unique position?
A little bit of both. So it's not super typical that someone transitions from museums and kind of academia over to the community development side of things, but I really love the development part of historic preservation development, and so I found a lot of satisfaction in working on the deal structure and actually making difficult projects possible. And that isn't typically something that you see crossover in, but almost every city or small town out there has somebody that's working on economic development, historic preservation, community development. So on that side of things, totally.
So cool. So obviously when I saw SCAD, my eyes lit up because my fiance did her grad school there, 2 years in Savannah, Georgia. It's my favorite city in America. Do you see a little bit, obviously Savannah is like the big leagues of all of this, right? It's beautiful. It's a top city in the world. I feel like people come to visit it. But do you see just a little bit of Wheeling in Savannah with like the waterfront and kind of just a little bit of like the old buildings and like the possibility behind it? Because I feel like one of the coolest things, I would go to Savannah, see a really old building, and I'd be like, I've seen one that looks almost just like that in Wheeling. How's that like when you go to all these different cities? Are you trying to find different ideas and kind of see how you can implement stuff back into Wheeling?
Absolutely. So yes, Savannah, we would all aspire to be as beautiful and successful as that city. But really anywhere you go that has a really rich historic building stock like Wheeling is a great source of inspiration. And so yes, Savannah, Greenville, South Carolina is another city that's done incredible things. There's a lot of kind of Rust Belt examples that are also thriving. But yeah, when you look at a community's buildings, you can really learn a lot about when they were the most profitable, the kinds of groups of people that were living there over time. And it's very cool to still have that here to use, because we know that once it's developed and once it's available, people will travel to come experience that.
So what are some of the other options besides kind of getting the houses back to where someone may want to purchase them? Maybe like tours or like putting other businesses in there. What are some of the options kind of going on right now in Wheeling?
Yeah, so there's so many different paths that could take. I think that short-term rental is a really important facet of all this. When I mention even just some of the cities we just talked about, a lot of those are really popular weekend destinations. Yeah. And so we want to be, not that we're not already, but we want to become an even friendlier place for people that want to just spend 2-3 days. We are centrally located. We're right off the highway. We've got great restaurants and a beautiful waterfront, but you want people to stay downtown
So cool.
to experience that weekend away. So I think short-term rental is a huge, huge opportunity for people to create really nice Airbnbs for those weekend visitors. I think mixed use for not just our downtown buildings, but in some of our mixed use residential areas is really awesome. If you think about like even just the shops in Center Market, the first floors are commercial and the upper floors are apartments. We could do that in other neighborhoods more. And then encouraging people to not be scared to take on a project.
So
because
cool.
if it gets you in your favorite neighborhood with your favorite kind of architecture within walking distance to your job, the rehab isn't as scary as people think.
So cool. So when you get, I was trying to do the math earlier. When you bought your house for, what was it, 18.5? Where were you living when you were trying to fix up the house? Because you couldn't move in right away, correct?
No, I was at Bory Lofts, which again is you could only do this in Wheeling or a similar city, where I had a really nice apartment that I was able to stay in and pay my rent and pay my construction loan, which essentially felt like a mortgage. And I was not living lavishly, but I could pull it off just on a very regular person's nonprofit salary.
So cool. So cool. So tell me a little bit about what's next, kind of like with your projects, your plans, and then kind of maybe your team, everyone else that's helping you, but what's coming up?
Yeah, so many things. So as I said, I moved here to work with Wheeling Heritage, and I love the work that the organization does. And then in this whole adventure that has been my house and sort of the attention it's garnered outside of my professional role, there have been so many opportunities. It was getting to a point where I just couldn't keep up with all of them. And so this year I went full-time consulting. So I still work with Wheeling Heritage, but not for them. And that allows me to work with all sorts of other people and not just in Wheeling. And so that means a lot of different things. I love to consult on residential rehabs. I really love working with individuals that are just in the process of doing something like this and don't know where to begin. Sometimes I'll work with communities that want to better understand how they can promote these ideas in their particular place.
That's awesome.
There's so many things.
That's so cool. So the consulting, when did you have to take a big leap there and almost say like, hey, I'm going to take a risk and go do something I love, or kind of what that process look like when you're saying, hey, I'm going to do this full time?
Yeah, I have been juggling a lot of different side projects for the better part of 2 years, and it was really started hitting like critical mass of I can't maintain a full-time job and do all these things. And so it didn't feel as dramatic of a leap as maybe it could have, but it definitely felt like a dramatic like like sigh of relief where I didn't have quite so many responsibilities all at the same time. So yeah, and I have some other things that are larger anchors in my like portfolio of consulting.
So cool.
I work at Belmont College and instruct in their preservation department.
That's awesome.
That's pretty regular, things like that.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about Betsy Sweeny and her personal life, right? So, right, you're working hard. You finally get to unwind a little bit. I saw the pup on the Instagram. I want to hear a little bit about the pup. Rescued, bought. Give me the story behind it.
Oh, he's the Prince of Wheeling. I adopted him when I got my first job out of college in Virginia. So he's almost 11, which I don't even like to think about. But yeah, I adopted him from the Charlottesville SPCA.
So cool.
He's a mutt, and he has been with me through it all. He's built log cabins. He's traveled the country. He's Instagram famous.
Yes. What's his favorite place to visit in Wheeling?
He just likes to walk around.
So I'm sure he's gotten to see a lot of the country then, right? I'm sure you've taken him all with you.
I've taken him everywhere I've lived, everywhere I've kind of traveled to. He's always in the passenger seat.
So cool.
Yeah, he's
so
a good dog.
That's awesome. All right, tell me a little bit about what you got going on this Saturday coming up at Sarah's on Main. I thought that was so cool. I had to reach out. I was like, these are some of the things I feel like Wheeling really needs, because every other big city we've had a chance to live in North Carolina, some different places. I feel like those are things you see all the time, every other weekend. So how'd that come about? And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so when I'm not doing old building stuff, I teach yoga, and I've taught yoga for, since college, so a while now. And when I was working full time, I didn't have as much time to add those things on. But now that that's freed up a bit, I've really enjoyed adding community classes to my calendar. And so when Sarah said a few years ago she had done like a pop-up yoga one Saturday or Sunday morning in her beautiful courtyard, and it was so fun. And then for whatever reason, probably, well, who knows, it just didn't really take off again. And she said, well, what do you think about bringing that back? And I jumped at the chance because I had attended that and it was awesome. And so we picked a handful of dates. It ends up working out to be like every other Saturday in the summer, where people can pay $15 and they get to attend yoga in the courtyard and then a drink or a latte from the coffee menu afterwards. And it'll be accessible for all levels.
Yes.
Anybody can do it. Anybody can do yoga. I'm an extremely chill teacher. If you want to just lay flat on your mat and breathe, that totally counts. Like, it does. It totally counts.
I'm a big yoga fan, so I'm gonna try to get some of us there on Saturday and get, hopefully it's hot outside. There's nothing better than sweating while you're doing it. And some of my friends have never done it, so I'm gonna try to convince them to come and do it because I just want to see how they do. So I think that'd be awesome.
I say to everyone, I love to be somebody's first yoga teacher.
Yes.
Like, I've taught all different styles, all different levels, different venues, and I really do love a beginner class.
Do you like teaching better, or do you like being in a class?
Both. And I like to teach very differently than the class I like to attend.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, both.
Power yoga or a different form if you had to choose?
I trained in the Ashtanga tradition, which is a pretty intense version, or it's kind of maybe the inspiration for a lot of different power yoga styles. So it's pretty rigorous. I love to attend that very regimented, difficult type of class, and I love to teach a very accessible Hatha style kind of yoga for everyone.
That's awesome.
Style.
Cool. Anything else you'd like to talk about? What's the go-to, like, now that your work day's over, what's the unwind look like?
Oh, well, it's not a coincidence that my house is just doors away from Good Mansion. So
Yes.
The lifestyle in Wheeling is incredible. The ability to work downtown and walk home and walk past Good Mansion and grab a bottle of wine on the way home and just enjoy it outside
so cool.
is one of my favorite things about the summer. But in terms of other things happening in Wheeling, the only other plug I'll throw out there is, again, about yoga. Ogilvy has started wellness classes as well. And it's one of those hidden gems in Wheeling where a lot of locals have no idea that there's a wellness studio right at the resort. It's beautiful, it's well equipped, and the classes are really reasonable. I teach there, but a lot of really great yoga teachers
cool.
other kind of wellness teachers are offering classes.
Is it in the bottom of Wilson Lodge?
Yes, it's kind of, if you know where the cantina is or the patio is, when you're sitting there and you look across that grassy area and you see those big windows in the gym, it's right beside there. So it's beautiful. It looks out over the patio.
So cool.
Really great. Yeah,
that's huge. And like you said, a lot of people don't know about that stuff. So, I mean, it's just, we're so thankful. We had the opportunity to travel this country because of sports, school, all that good stuff. Wheeling has everything we need, and it's so cool. I mean, we have a big city an hour away. We can go hop on a plane whenever we want, but it's just so we have great food, such underrated food here. We've got great bars, great people, great job opportunities. Just people have to find out about it. And I feel like there's so much momentum behind it right now, especially since you've been here since what, 2018, 19?
2019, yeah.
I know you can probably see the growth already, and then this long-term vision.
Absolutely.
How do you feel like the momentum is right now compared to when you first got here?
It sort of ebbs and flows. And when I first got here, it felt like I was kind of on the back end of the first wave, if you will. And then there were some really big achievements during that time, and people were sort of like, well, what's next? And then who knows what the catalyst was, but it seems like coming out of the pandemic, we hit this secondary wave of new people coming in, or people branching out and trying new things, new businesses opening, and that momentum picking up again.
Cool.
And it's really great to speak to what you were saying about just Wheeling having everything you need. This is the thing that I tell everyone that maybe doesn't live in Wheeling but wants to know about my life here or whatever. And I just say, what does your average day look like? You probably wake up, you probably have to get up at 4:00 in the morning if you're somebody that goes to the gym, to get back, to then get in your car, to commute for an hour, then to go to your job, to sit and eat lunch at your desk because you're in a strip mall where there's no walkability and there's no opportunity to do whatever. So then you go home after you sit in traffic for another hour to then maybe like work up the courage to leave your house again to go out for a drink.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be like that.
No,
like,
not at all.
You can have a 6-minute commute and walk to work and know the person that makes your coffee every morning and get to support small businesses pretty much every dollar you spend. It's a really nice quality of life.
Yes, it's the best. And I just told this to Sarah Leidick the other day. She ruined avocado toast for me because I literally cannot go anywhere else now and try any other restaurants. And I'm like, this is just not the same.
No.
That sourdough is unbelievable. And like, I just the other day, I was telling this to someone, I went to table 304, got a coffee, and then went to Sarah's and ate. Like, it's literally a perfect morning. I went right to work.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to be able just to do things like that. And yeah, I'm really, really excited for the city of Wheeling, and people like you are doing great things around here. And I think something else that's really going to be good, just to kind of what you were just getting at, like the remote work right now that people are going to be able to do. If you want an affordable place to live, like great bars, restaurants around, things to do, there's something to do down on the waterfront every weekend now until like October or something crazy. And places like the Waterfront Hall, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. I feel like every day you hear someone else is investing in the city with buying a new building or starting a new business, and it's like, that's what we need. So it's really, really cool. But I appreciate your time. We're going to do one more segment. Are you a dessert fan?
I am.
Favorite dessert? Go ahead.
Okay,
or a couple things. Are you an ice cream fan?
I like ice cream. It's never what I gravitate
Okay,
towards.
go ahead. What's the go-to?
I would say the go-to is either like cheesecake, or I really just love a cheap event cake.
Okay,
like when somebody slices that flat white cake, I think it's the best.
Yeah. Favorite cheesecake?
Like place or kind?
Nah, just in general, like flavor, place.
Oh, just traditional with strawberries on top.
Wow. Cheesecake Factory, overrated or underrated?
Overrated, probably.
Our big discussion is, should you take someone to Cheesecake Factory for the first date? How would you feel if someone took you there for that?
Well, if I'm in Wheeling, that's a long commute for a first date, so immediately uncomfortable.
Yeah, they were like, the big discussion on the radio all the time is like, is it a nice place to take someone, or is it overrated? So that's like that's the big thing. Okay, last segment. It's sponsored by Brownie House. Okay, this is out of Morgantown. They make gourmet brownies. So yesbrownies.com, code word Pine Room if you want to order some brownies. So this segment's called Fast Five. I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. You don't get to think about them.
Okay.
Got it? Favorite food?
Oh, pizza.
Favorite city?
Pittsburgh.
TV series or movie series?
30 Rock.
Good. Favorite drink?
White wine.
And favorite motto or saying?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I have a quote somewhere on my desk, but I can't think of what it says
Let's
now.
go with this. Favorite animal?
Oh, my dog.
Love it. All right, Betsy, thank you so much. Everyone, please check her out on Instagram. We'll drop that tag here. I appreciate your time. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you guys for all that you do for Wheeling.